Hey everybody, welcome to Cardboard Commander. My name is Jerry, and today we are going to be playing Malta Besieged, a game published by Worthington Press, or this version of it is anyhow. And I have already got the game set up, so this isn't really a playthrough, but it's a playthrough, but I'll kind of go through the rules a little bit just so you can see what's going on. So the first thing, this is a stage of siege game, and the whole goal is to get to Malta. There's 4 fronts, so you have the Italian Air Force, the Italian Navy, you have the Italians in in Africa, and then you also have the Luftwaffe and U-boats that will come into play later when the cards ask them to come into play. Their whole goal is to get to here. They've got to go through that fortress. There are certain resources down here. So you have military down in the bottom left-hand corner. You have supply here that starts there, and you have morale. There's some other markers here that we'll use later into the game. And Cunningham, there's 3 decks. We're using the first deck. And again, I'll kind of go over everything while we're playing the game, just so you can kind of, and I'm learning it too. So I have watched some of Stuka Joe's videos, so we'll go through there. There is a very detailed sequence of play up here, so we'll be going through that and learning through that too. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we'll see what we can do here. Hopefully we're not making too many mistakes. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So first thing you do is there's a headline phase. First thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a card. And you have to use the card. There's a card with a red square on it. That's the first seeded card in the deck, so you have to play it first. So this card is Faith, Hope, and Charity. The Italian Air Force launched a series of raids on Malta starting on 11 June 1940. Uncrated, obsolete gladiator fighters miraculously helped sustain the island's air defense. Swordfish attack planes also arrived from France. The Axis bombings continued upon the Allies' neglected fortress. So it's a neglected fortress because it's a 2 right now. We can boost that up, and I'll show you how we're going to do that later. So we read the card from top to bottom. So we get 1 action. So I'm going to put that right there just so we know how many actions we have. And then we just read the card from top to bottom. So the next thing on the card is the Italian Air Force increases by 1. So I'm going to put this over here for now until we need to roll. So the Italian Air Force is in the 3 box, so it goes to the 2 box. There is on the resources it says none, so there's no change for resources. And then this is where we use these DRM cubes. So it says that there's a -2 DRM on the Italian Navy. So we're going to go, there's a -2 for the Air Force. So we're going to put that right there. And there's a -2 for the Italians in the desert. So there's only 1 -2, so there's 2 -1 markers here, so I'm going to put those right there. Then we'll put this back over here. Got too quick here. -1 on the morale. So you do not want any of these to get down to 0, because bad things can happen when that happens. And there's -1 for morale, which we did, and then there's a +1 for military. So those are some of the actions that we can do. Okay, so military phase, move the indicated Axis units, shift any markers as indicated. Ultra escort attempt, so we don't have convoys yet. Don't have battle stations, any of that. So now we go to the resource phase, adjust the resource marker, we just did. Now we're in the orders phase. And in the orders phase, at any time attempt to expend Ultra, if available, which we're not. Ultra's over here. Ultra's someplace over here. Here it is. And it's not ready, so we're just going to put that right there. Then perform allowed number of actions in any order desired. Spend supply points for extra. So if I wanted to spend a supply point, I could do an extra action. Don't really want to do that early in the game because you want to save up that if possible. So resource roll greater than the value. So in our action, we can try to increase our resources. We can try to attack here and move them back. -2, so whatever, to win, you have to roll higher than this number. But as you can tell, there's a -2 DRM on here, so that's going to make that rather difficult. And there's a -2 DRM on here as well. So we could try to move back the Italian Navy. So all we'd have to do is roll better than a 2, so a 3, 4, 5, or 6, it would move it back a little bit. Or I think what we're going to try to do, we add one. Ooh, it's really hard to get the military moving too because we're going to add one to the die roll, so that's going to help us. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we need a 4 or better, and we get to add 1. So this is going to be for our action. So we're going to go ahead and put, I don't know where we can see this. Can you see it right there? Let's see if we can see that on the thing. Yeah, so we're going to roll here. So we roll and we add 1. So 2, 3. So that doesn't work. It's not successful. So boo, that didn't help us at all. So we're done with our first action, our order. Then we go to the housekeeping phase. So convoy arrival, there are none. Defeat or victory, no. Refresh map. Return all the DRMs back to the board. And Spitfire marker, nothing checked, fort removal. Okay, so that's it. So now we go to game turn 2. We'll go ahead and shuffle these again. I've done it once, but we'll shuffle them just so we stay, that way we know exactly what we're doing and nobody can think that we're cheating or anything. I'm sure we're going to make enough mistakes without that. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. So the next card, Operation Compass. So O'Connor's December offensive was only intended as a spoiler attack, but it exposed Italian weaknesses, and the British rapidly advanced across 500 miles of desert, capturing Tobruk in the process. The Italian 10th Army surrendered after the disaster at I don't know how to say that, Betafam on 7th February 1944, but then the British campaign stalled. So the first thing we do is the Luftwaffe advances. So they come in, and I'm pretty sure it's the little Luftwaffe comes in. Let me double check and make sure that the Luftwaffe does come in. Ignore any call for advances for either of these fronts until a card that brings them. Okay, so they are not in play. So we ignore that. And we retreat the Italian army in the desert, which is awesome. So that goes to 5. We add +1 DRM to supply. And we add a -1 DRM to military. So that's not good there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing that wrong. So we add +1 to supply. So that goes to 3. +1 to morale, so that goes to 4. And then the orders are -1 DRM for military and +1 DRM for supply. Okay, and we get 2 orders, so that's going to go to 2. and we will see what we're going to do with those. So now we get 2 orders. So the good thing is they're pushed back, so that's good. Morale's looking really good. -1 for military, and it's a 4. So that's not really good. So I guess we're going to have to leave that kind of alone. But we could push back anywhere here. None of these have any, and we have 2 orders. So the first thing we're going to do is try to do supply. So we get to add 1, 2, 3. So do you have to get greater? Well, let's see. It's on here. Resource. Roll greater than the resource improvement to gain. Yep, so we don't gain there. Not rolling very well there, are we? Here we're going to try to push back. Let's see, they're in the 2 spot and they're in the 2 spot. So let's try to push back the Air Force. So we need better than a 2. And we don't. Man, you got to have greater than, and we didn't do that. So both those orders were, so that was a semi-good turn. Not as good as it could have been, but not awful either. And so there we go to refresh map, take off all the DRM markers, which we've done. And we go to the next card. We go back up here. So draw the next card. The next card is Italians invade Greece. So 2 actions. So we've got 2 up there. Dulce's ill-advised venture into Greece on 28th October 1940 put more pressure on the Italian Air Force and took some pressure off Malta. Difficult terrain and stubborn Greek. So it stalled the Italian drive. On October 11th, the British prevailed in naval engagement at Cape Presario as more supplies reached Malta. Sorry about the pronunciation. So first thing we're going to do, retreat the Air Force. So basically kind of did the same thing. Oh, yeah, kind of did the same thing we did. So they go back to 3. We retreat the Navy. So they go back to 3. Oh no, I'm sorry. They don't retreat. They advance. And so does the Italians in the desert. So that's okay. We didn't lose or gain anything there. Supply, we gained 1. And then our DRM -1 military. Boy, they're just not letting us help with this military, are they? And +1 to morale. So we add another morale. So we're in the bonus for morale. So I'll have to read what that means. And then there's a +1 against the Navy. And a +1 against the desert folks. So we've got 2 orders. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and attack both of these. So we're going to attack the Navy first. Man, we just cannot do anything with that. And now we're going to attack in the desert. We add 1-3, so that does push them back to Benghazi. That's our second order. And now we're down to housekeeping. So we take off all the markers. We've done that. Oh, I've got to remember, we can try to increase Malta too. So I've got to remember to do that. Let's see what the bonus means for the morale. So we're at morale bonus. So morale bonus. This bonus allows you once per turn to reroll any just failed resource or raid attack action. You cannot reroll other failed actions with this bonus. So any resource or raid action. All right, so that's good to know. So now we cleaned up. We go back up here, draw another card. It's a 2 resource card, so we're back up here. Air defenses reorganized. So Brigadier Sadler, a veteran of the Battle of Britain, arrives at Malta and promptly organizes its anti-aircraft defenses into a box pattern that provides better supporting fire. This not only allowed the damaged carrier Illustrious to safely slip out of Malta's Grand Harbor, it also led to heavier losses for Axis and allies. So we go to the military phase. And the military phase says, asterisk next to Luftwaffe, also if in play and after advancing, the Luftwaffe's unit battle is adjusted to 3, so they're not in play. The Italian Air Force goes up 1. Resources none. And it's a +1 or -1 for supply, +1 for military, and +1 for the Air Force. So we've got 2 actions. So we come down here to the orders phase. So we are going to try to advance the military, so we get +1 there. You automatically succeed on a 6 every time, no matter what, and you automatically fail on a 1, no matter what. So we go to the 2. So that's good. Now I've got one more order. And I'm thinking, I don't like having the Air Force that close. So I am going to try to push the Air Force back even with the +1. We roll a 4. Oh, it's a +1, right, on the military? Yeah. So that works, and that pushes him back to 2. That's it for that. Now we go to housekeeping. Again, I forgot Malta, but we'll do that next time. Housekeeping, clean up the markers, and we go to the next turn. So let's clean that up. Uh-oh, this one isn't good. So we do get 2 actions. The capitulation of France in late June 1940 put Malta in an extreme precarious position. With the removal of the French Navy from the equation, the balance of power theoretically shifted to the Italian Navy, which matched up well, at least on paper, against the British Mediterranean fleet. So military, we advanced the Navy, and now they come into the fortress box. So now they have to roll better than a 2 to go in there. And they do. I will have to read. We will really need to try and get them out of there for that. Or so that's movement. Resources. -1 morale, so it goes down to 4. If not yet in play, place the ultra marker in the holding box. So it is in the holding box. It is now available for purchase. So we're going to say available. We get a -2 in the desert for the Italians. And we get a -1 for morale if we want to try to do anything there. We get a -1 for the naval, which is not good, and -1 for the Italian Air Force, so that's not good. And we had 2, so that's not a good card for us. So the first thing we're going to do is it doesn't matter, we still need to try to get rid of this. So we're going to roll 1 order there. 5 -1's a 4, so that works. So that pushes them back to there. Now I'm wondering if I can fortress Malta. Fortify. Roll greater than the fort's unit's battle number to improve it. So yeah, I'm gonna spend one to do that. So we're gonna roll 2. It has to be greater, I think. Yep. So we don't get to fortify Malta. So now we come down to the cleanup phase. So again, take off all the DRM markers. Ultra marker status check. Fort removal. Check to see if Trebek falls. Okay, so it doesn't. Go to the next turn. Pull up another card. 2 more actions. Italians invade Egypt. So with that being said, on 13 September 1940, the Italian army in North Africa, led by Marshal Rodolfo Graziani, I don't know how to say that, breached the border into British-controlled Egypt, capturing Solom and later Sidi Barrani. The Italians inexplicably halted to await reinforcements, thus allowing the heavily outnumbered British to catch their breath. Italians go back into Tobruk, but they stop. -1 morale, so we're back to 3. -2 for the Italian Navy. -1 for military. -1 for supply. +1 for the Navy. All right, so first thing we're going to do is try to fortify Malta. We don't. I think we are going to try to, we're going to go ahead and try to push back the Italians in the desert. Oh, -2, that was silly. I thought it was a +2. Well, that didn't work, so that was my fault. So kind of let them off the hook. Clean up the board. So that was my orders, clean up the board, and go back up here. So draw another card. 2 more actions. Operation Catapult. With France defeated, their navy remained a threat, as being part of the Axis powers could potentially seize and use it. This was unacceptable risk to the British. Thus, after an ultimatum and negotiations had failed, the Royal Navy dealt a crippling blow to the French Navy at Miracle, however you say that, 30 July 1940. No military actions. Ultra is not ready. And resources. -1 supply. Also -1 morale, but only if this card is revealed before the France. It's not, because France has already been played. -2 to the Italians in the desert. -1 to morale. And -1 to the Italian Air Force. All right, so we get 2 actions. So first we're going to try to fortify Malta again. No, cannot fortify that. And we want to do that again. No, we're going to try to push the Navy back. And we do, so they go back to 2. So that was semi-successful, so we clean up. So that was orders, now we clean up. I think that's it, and we draw another card. 2 orders. I'm going to pretend to pronounce that. Fliegerkorps X. After Spain's refusal to assist with a planned capture of Gibraltar, the transfer of a Luftwaffe formation from Norway, December 1940, drastically altered the Malta campaign. Experienced German pilots bombed Malta's harbors, airfields, and shipping, and crippled the British carrier Illustrious on 10 January 1941. So Luftwaffe, if not yet in play, placed the 4 battle value Luftwaffe in its number 3 space instead of advancing it. Okay, so number 4 goes into the 3 space. And the Italian Air Force moves up to Sicily. -1 for all resources. -1 for all resources and all Axis fronts. Wow. So we'll just put all -1 there. For all those and all Axis fronts. So we've got 2 orders. So Malta, we need to fortify. No. We're going to try it again one more time. Yes, finally. So Malta goes to 3. That was orders. Now we clean up. And we go to the next card. 2 actions again. A dozen Hurricane fighters made the first so-called club run to Malta from the carrier Argus in August 1940. Meanwhile, additional aircraft were being delivered to Malta, even as the Battle of Britain still raged, demonstrating Churchill's great resolve to preserve Malta, his unsinkable aircraft carrier. Military, we advanced the Italian Air Force to, they're going to jump in, or try to jump into Malta. So they have to beat a 3. They don't beat it, so they just stay there. -2 for the Italians in the desert, and +1 military. So we are going to try, so one of the actions is going to be a resource, so we're going to try to gain military. So we add 1, a 3, no. We're going to try to push back the Air Force, and we do, so they go back to 2. Go to clean up the board. 2 more actions. Operation Excess. Dual convoys were initially threatened by the Italian Navy. However, upon learning that each convoy was covered by British battleships and aircraft carriers and having their base in Naples bombed by Wellington's on 8 January 1941, the Italian Navy withdrew to Genoa. Still, the Royal Navy suffered several losses. So, the Luftwaffe advances 1. They go into West Sicily. Now, next to the Navy, it says, if Ultra succeeds in providing convoy escort instead of advancing, if Ultra succeeds in providing convoy escort instead of advancing, retreat the marina and do not allow it to attack the convoy this turn. So nope, and then there's a convoy. So I will need to read up on convoys because I don't know, this is my first one. So I will have to see what this is all about. I'm going to pause this now. All right, so we moved the Luftwaffe, right? So they're in the 2 spot. We cannot use Ultra, it's not ready. So we don't get to use that over here. So if Ultra succeeds, instead of advancing and retreat, so it doesn't. So now we go up here to, so Ultra didn't work. So now we flip over all the fronts that can attack. So you've got 1. Oh, you can't do that. Okay, so that one you can't, but the Italians you can. And then each one on here, there's a number, right? So you can see, so if you roll a 3 through a 5, it's a hit, it's a loss. And we put these over here for hits. And a 6 is a critical hit. Critical hit represents the Italian front making multiple sorties on shipping, sea lanes. If the result is a red to hit number, the outcome is a critical hit. Advance the convoy hits marker up the track by 2 boxes. Oof. Okay, so on the, for the Luftwaffe front, a 3 through a 6 is going to get a hit. So we're going to roll. They roll a 5, so that's 1 hit. The Italian Air Force, same thing, 3 through a 5, 6 is a critical. They get a hit. And the last one is a 3 through a same thing, 3 through a 5, they get a 1 and miss actually, so. Okay, so there's 2 hits there. So we are doing, that's the military phase. So now, if they survive, we get 2 supply added, but we're not at that point yet. So now resources none. -1 DRM for military, and a +1 for the Italian Navy, and we have 2 that we can do. Nobody's adjacent, so I'm wondering if we want, yeah, let's go ahead and try to increase Malta, and that is unsuccessful. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and try to push back the Navy here. So we add 1, and that's an automatic success. So that goes back to Naples. So we clean that up. So now, so that was the end of the orders phase. We could use a supply, but I don't want to take that down to 1. So now we go to the housekeeping. Convoy arrival. If this is a convoy card, resolve hits from phase 2 now. So if you guys see on the convoy track, this is Operation Excess, which is right here. So convoy air support, we don't have any of those. So there's 2 hits, so we have to roll for both hits. So the first hit is a 3, no loss. The second hit is a 1, no loss. So good news there. So we do not lose any. Resolve the hits, apply convoy arrival bonus or sunk. So we arrive. So there is a bonus up here, if you see. So the convoy was successful. So we add the 2 supply. We get a free order. So with that free order, we're going to try and Fortress Malta again. Yes, we do that. So it goes to a 4. So that's good. Gives us some peace of mind there. Now we could use 1 more. We're going to use 1 supply and try to increase morale. So we add 1. 1, 2. Boy, we just are not having some luck there. So that is it for the turn, and then we move on, and we've had our first convoy. So the next card, Operation Hats. So a fast convoy carrying provisions and munitions joined by the Mediterranean fleet sailed to Malta while some escorting British warships bombarded Italian airfields on the islands of Rhodes. The delivery of these much-needed supplies to Malta, which was dependent on imports, helped support its valiant war efforts by the sea. So we get 2 actions. Military, so the Navy, the Italian Navy moves up to there, and then there's a convoy battle. So again, we cannot use Ultra. So we're going to flip over every one of these again, and they get to roll. So we'll start with the Luftwaffe. They roll a 4, so they get a hit. The Italian Air Force gets a 1, they do not get a hit. And the Italian Navy rolls a 2, and they do not get a hit. So there's only 1 possible hit for the convoy, so that's really good. We'll get 2 supply if it makes it. There are no resource advantages. We do get -2, which is not good. So for the Italians in the desert. And we get a +1 for the Italian Air Force. So we get 2 orders. So I really think we're going to try to push back the Italian Air Force. So we're going to roll. And we rolled a 1, which is a 2, which doesn't work. We're going to go ahead and do that 1 more time. We roll a 3 because of that plus, and so that pushes them back to the 3 chart, or back to 3. So the orders are done. Now we go to housekeeping convoys arrive. So now that is Operation Hats. And that is up here. So we roll for the 1 hit. They roll a 3, so supply loss is 1. Only 1 supply makes it to port, which is fine. So we add 1 to port, so it's still a success. So we get our free action, and then we get a +1 to morale again. Our free action, we're going to try to push the Navy back again. So we roll a 3, they do, so they go back to Naples. That's the first action. Well, no, that was our bonus. Do I want to use the supply and try to... Yeah, we're going to use 1 supply. And we're going to try to get morale, so we roll again. Yes, automatic success, so that's good. And we go ahead and clean up the board. And we go back up here, and we draw another card. Operation Judgment. So 2 action points. The daring British raid upon the Italian naval base at Toronto on 11-12 November 1940 precedes the Japanese attack at Pearl Harbor. Swordfish bombers launched from the Illustrious crippled the Italian battle fleet and caused it to retreat back to Naples. Operation MB8 brought troops and AA guns to Malta. So that's good for us, I think. So the Italian Air Force advances 1. The Navy retreats 1. So now they go back to there. So that's good. Resources, +1 for military. -1 supply. +1 morale. So that's good. If not yet in play, place the ultra marker in the holding box. It is now available for purchase. So I think we flip that over. I'll double check that to make sure. -1 DRM for the Navy. And -1 DRM for the Italians in the desert. And +1 for the Air Force, and we have 2 orders. So first thing we're going to do is try to get the Air Force to go back. We roll a 5, so they go back to here. We could actually push them back 1 more time as well, if we wanted to do that. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. So next one, yes, so we move them back to South Italy. So the Italians are going the wrong direction, which is good for us. That was our orders. Now we go clean up. We're good. So we go back up here and draw another card. The Battle of Cape Spartivento. 2 actions. On 27 November 1940, an inconclusive engagement occurred between the British fleet and the Italian Navy, with both forces suffering minor losses and then withdrawing. This allowed a small but fast convoy from Gibraltar to successfully divide, and all ships arrived safely at either Malta or Alexander. So the first thing is if in play and after advancing, the Luftwaffe's value is adjusted down to 3. So they advance to 1, but then they're dropped down to 3. And then the Italian Navy comes back up. +1 supply, which is nice. -1 DRM for military. And for the Italians in the desert. +1 for supply. And we have 2 actions. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the Luftwaffe. So we're going to roll back. Ooh, they don't go anywhere. We're going to do it again. We're going to try to get them to go do that again. So, and we do with a 4, so they go back to 2. That's it for orders. Clean up the board, and we draw another card. Malta gets mined. 3 actions, so that's awesome. So, while Malta was constantly bombed, 200 air raids alone before the end of 1940, the Axis also dropped parachute mines on towns and systematically laid magnetic mines in its waters approaches. These mines contributed to Malta's isolation, the island being surrounded by steel as well as sea. Rationing began. So the Luftwaffe, if not in play, placed a 4 battle value unit in the south instead of advancing it. So it is in play. Wait, if not yet in play, so it is in play, so it advances. The Italian Air Force advances. -1 supply, -1 morale, -1 DRM for all resources. 3 actions. So the first one is we want to move the Luftwaffe back. So we roll, they go back 1. We got 2 more actions. We're going to do that again. We're going to try to move them back again. And yes, we're successful. We're lucky there. So we got 1 more. Let's go ahead and try to get the Italian Air Force back. And yes, we do. So they go back to 4. So that was pretty successful. I don't want to use any supply. So we're just going to clean up and go to housekeeping. We did that. And we're going to draw the last card of the year. Battle of Calabria. The first notable encounter between Italian and British task forces, both of which were covering convoys on July 9, 1940, turned out to be the only meeting of the campaign where the 2 opposing main battle groups engaged each other. The Italians, upon retiring, were humiliated when bombed by their own airplanes. So 2 actions. The Italian Air Force moves up to the 3 box. The Navy moves to the 2 box. -2 for the Italians in the desert. And +1 for the Navy. So I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and roll for the +1 on the Navy. So 1 is a 2, not good enough. We're going to do that again. 2, 3, so that does work barely. So they go back to Naples. And now we clean up, and that's the end of that turn, folks. So we are done with the first game turn. It's looking pretty good so far, I would think. The Italians in the desert are okay there. We know Rommel will be coming in soon, but we do have the Maltas up to a 4. The Air Force is in the 3, the Navy's in the 3, and the Luftwaffe is in the 3. So nobody's a real threat right now. So Malta's looking pretty good. Military's at a 2, supplies at a 2, and the morale's at a 3. So all in all, I think it's looking pretty good so far. So I will make sure I reread the rules just to make sure I haven't goofed anything up too badly. And if you see something that I have goofed up, go ahead and let me know. But I think we're doing okay. So until next time, everybody, be safe, be kind, happy wargaming.